Certainly in Jarikhanda, the animals are very much attracted to Krishna. But then it gets to Mrigari the hunter, even foolish persons like hunters, they're attracted. And how that Mrigari the hunter, he got the mercy of Narad Muni, and then as a result of that, he was shown how he would suffer for all the animals that he had killed, and then he asked how he could be relieved of that karma. And Narad Muni told him, first, then break your bow. And he was very hesitant. He said, how will I have any income? I'll lose my job. I'll lose my employment. I break my bow. How will I survive? And then Narad Muni said, don't worry, we'll take care of you. It's all right. It's all right. And then the devotees would come from all over. They would come from all over England to visit Mrigari. And they would bring with them many offerings of food for Mrigari. In fact, he told them, don't send so much. He told Narad Muni, everything's good, but please don't send so much food. I don't have enough refrigeration to take care of it all. And people were coming from afar. They were even coming from France. They're bringing boxes of, what do they call them? Petit Escolar. You know that?
Snails.
No. Petit Escolar it's called the little schoolboy. Oops. That's my T signal. The little schoolboy. They're cookies that on the bottom is a cookie and on the top is a slab of chocolate.
Wow, that sounds pretty good.
They are really good. I mean,
just the sort of thing that an unemployed hunter could really get into.
Could really get into, exactly. Yeah. Or I don't know. This is my own commentary, my own weird interpretation. As if Mrigari was a hunter in England, which I tend to doubt, but maybe. Narad Muni travels all over the universe.
Sure.
Govinda Maharaj told one story about one animal, actually one cobra, that became a devotee. And I believe it was Narad Muni. He became converted by Narad Muni. And one time they went to visit him. The devotees went to visit this snake. And when they found him, the poor cobra was covered with bandages and sores here. And they said to him, well, what's all this about? And he said, oh, I messed up the main line. He had been told, don't bite anyone. So then they asked him, why you're all beaten up, why you're covered with bandages and things. And he said, children and others, they know that I won't bite them, so they throw rocks at me, they hit me with sticks. So I'm in a bad way. And then Narad Muni said, I told you not to bite anyone, but I didn't tell you not to show your hoods. So, if a cobra, if people are threatening the cobra, you can always, go up and make like he's going to strike. And then, no, the idea was that you're supposed to be like, devotees are by nature kind to all living entities. It doesn't mean that they should become so, what's the word? So manso, so meek that they're afraid to exert themselves. Anyway, you get the idea of the story, I think, right?
Yeah.
Devotees are supposed to be kind and gentle and everything like that, but they're not necessarily supposed to be pushovers. I'm putting it in the wrong, not a very nice terminology, but they're not supposed to be so gentle and so meek that other persons take advantage of them. But in general, I haven't found that so many devotees go overboard in that department, right?
No.
It's not so many of them that are not opinionated, aren't opinionated and don't express themselves. That is, we always see that in conversations, we have to be careful not to so much. Strangely enough, they always say that the thing that will divide people the most is politics and religion.
Mm.
So luckily, as we've always heard it, we're not in the real sense of the word, we're not practicing religion. We're not part of the Hindu religion. Although some people may think that because they say, well, what is this dress? What is it? You have shika, you wear robes, just like Hindu monks, you use the same color or a similar color. Maybe they use saffron and your clothes have faded to more of a pink color. But in general, it's the same idea. They having tilak, shaved heads. This is a Hindu thing, they'll say. But we would say, no, we're not really adepts of Hinduism. We practice Gaudiya Vaishnavism. And as we've seen in description of Srila Sridhar Maharaj, he said that Srila Saraswati Thakur, whose disappearance we just celebrated like 2 days ago, right? Srila Saraswati Thakur, he declared a totalitarian war against all misconceptions and even existing religions where they express things in a way that they don't recognize. For instance, they don't recognize that Krishna is Parameshwara, Ishwara Parama Krishna Sachidananda Vigraha, Nadir Adir Govinda Sarva Karana Karanam. Many persons, they say, oh no, all the gods are the same. I mean, I remember when I visited Guyana. Guyana is near Venezuela in South America. It's near Trinidad, British Guyana. Then the other Guyana is now called Suriname. That's kind of the Dutch Guyana, I guess. But British Guyana, it's interesting because the people were brought there. Many of the people, the country's kind of divided between what you would say, those who were of descent of Hindus and those who are of descent from Africans. So it's about almost a little less, maybe more, well, about 50-50. And they have some reverence for Bhagavad Gita, but they don't really have an understanding of Bhagavad Gita, the persons who are of Hindu descent. You can tell, like, a common name among some of the people is Narayan, but they spell it Nara, Narayan, the Narine, Narayan. That's how they spell it. They don't exactly have the spellings right. I mean, of their family names. Many of them, people from Africa were brought over as, by the British, they were brought over as slaves. And the people from India, a lot of them are, I guess, from descent from South India. They were brought over as indentured servants. But they were all had the purpose. An indentured servant is not so far removed from a slave. It just means somebody that was purchased to. They were all brought over there to harvest the sugar cane. That's one of the main crops in Guyana. And on their altars, sometime when of course, I was there a long time ago, but they would have altars. They would have naturally all the demigods, but they would also have pictures on their altar of Indira Gandhi at the time she was in office. And so they didn't, that was their kind of conception of religion, was to worship all the gods and worship even the famous personalities from India, politicians. So that's why even among some people from India and all that, they think that devotees of the Gaudiya Vaishnavas, some of them just think we're a little, one, they think we're a little fanatical, which there may be a little truth in that. And two, they also, they also think, especially those who are smart to Brahmins, etc., they think we appeal, that Gaudiya Vaishnavism appeals to the masses, like low-class people. And you've heard the whole thing where they say even the Maha Mantra shouldn't be distributed to everyone because it's from the Vedas. And it's a Vedic mantra that's supposedly meant for the Brahmins. Have you ever heard that spoken of?
Sure, yeah.
Yeah. So they don't, they think that, it's interesting because we're just reading in the Bhagavad Gita in the 9th chapter, the verse, Striyo Vaishyas Tata Shudras, that the Krishna consciousness is for everyone, for the laborers, or we'll call Shudras, and the Vaishyas and the women. And then the next verse, Krishna says to Arjuna, and what to speak of the Brahmins and what is it? He says the Brahmins and saintly persons, naturally, they'll be included also. So, and so though there are persons who would complain that how, for instance, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur presented Gaudiya Vaishnavism, we could say throughout India through the Gaudiya Math, and also Srila Prabhupada taking it to the West. They would say that they've made religion available to the lower class persons. You've heard that. And Srila Guru Maharaj, he said that was one of the comments, one consideration of his father. It didn't his father didn't necessarily have so much appreciation for what was presented by Srila Saraswati Thakur, what was the Gaudiya Vaishnavism. Commenting that it shouldn't be presented just so much for the masses. And if you also see that can also explain some of the anomalies in India, because we see that when the Muslims invaded India, they converted they converted many Hindus by the sword. It's known that way. And also we can say some economically, which I guess just like they have the terminology rice Christians, right? You've heard that, rice Christians, which always sounded to me like a cereal called Rice Krispies. Rice Christians. So similarly, some persons were converted to become Muslims, either by threat or also by economic pressure, that you'll do better. We'll take care of you if you convert to become a Muslim. And Subhuti Rai, Subhuti Rai commented to his wife, she wanted, not Subhuti Rai, the king, Nawab Hussain Shah. Apparently he had been in employment in Subhuti Roy's household, and Subhuti Roy, he regarded him as like a father, but the Nawab's wife was upset that Subhuti Roy had once punished the Nawab, and there were some marks where he had been hit, so to speak. Won't go into all the details. And she said that she told the Nawab, you should kill him. And the Nawab was horrified. He said, no, he's like my father. How can I kill him? And she said, well, at least you could convert him to become a Muslim. So the Nawab, then they had they took some water that was from a pitcher drunk by some Muslims, and then threw water on Subhuti Roy and said, now you're a Muslim. So something so simple as that. I mean, imagine if I were drinking a glass of water and I threw some drops of water on you and I said, now you're an American. So, I mean, but then when Subhuti Roy went to the priest, to the Hindu priest, they told him, oh, well, you don't have to worry so much because this is rather an innocent thing. So if you would just drink some boiling ghee in your next life, you'll be born as a Hindu. That was their comment. It's like, it was like, pardon me, we'll hear this. Don't worry, just drink some boiling ghee and then you'll die. And then in your next birth, you'll come back as a Hindu. And I go, excuse me? I didn't hear you so well. But the idea was that Muslims were converting people, but we don't hear or read about any conversions of non-Hindus to Hinduism. That didn't happen. They weren't really interested in that. If we went into some of these persons' houses, or we wouldn't even get in the door, but they would say, get that malecha out of my property. Get that, referring to us, get that malecha out of here. But Daddy, he's rather cute, isn't he? So, there was no conversion, zero conversion of people from what they would call outcast, or what do they call them? I think in general, many Westerners would be considered maybe a notch below untouchables by many persons. There was no conversion. There's no the conception, or the concept of conversion didn't exist in Hinduism, and as a result of their rather rigid system, there, people became Muslims, and they had no access to come back into the Hindu society. And as a result of that, we see some of the problems that are going on, hundreds of years later. But now a lot of the persons who were of other, let's say, of other beliefs, they're not, they have no entrance back into Hinduism. Not saying that they necessarily would want to take it, but certainly somebody who maybe was converted by the sword, if they were given the chance, they might want to go back to their previous life. But that kind of inclusion doesn't exist in Hinduism. So when we see that, for instance, we see that when Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada brought people back to India, even his own god brothers sometimes ridiculed that. I mean, I remember, like, I won't mention the name of his god brother, but it was a person who was very famous and came to Krishna Balaram Mandir, and he said to the effect of that Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, Bhaktivedanta Swami, he didn't say Prabhupada, Bhaktivedanta Swami has done great work, and he's brought many people to Krishna consciousness. And of course, many of them previously were hippies, he said. And he said, I couldn't have done that, like in a kind of a derogatory mood, like they were hippies. Now he's bringing them back and brandishing them as Gaudiya Vaishnavas, aren't they? Not really true acceptance. And he said he went there to the West and he mixed with hippies, and he said, I could not have done that. Oh, pardon me. You wouldn't want to have dirtied your hands. I shouldn't say that, because the person is actually a revered Vaishnava, and he's really basically is a nice person, although he was somewhat criticized by Srila Guru Maharaj when he came back dressed as a Westerner from strangely enough, from England, I believe. But I mean, I actually heard people talking down to Srila Prabhupada because the persons that he brought back with him, who were supposedly Gaudiya Vaishnavas or devotees, had previously been in the Western society, might have been also called hippies, many of them. And admittedly, some of them were a little rough around the edges, but I don't think he necessarily had a working acquaintance with them. So how would he know? He just saw them from afar. And from afar, they certainly looked like Gaudiya Vaishnavas. They had tilak and they had shaved heads and they wore dhoti and kurtas. Maybe sometimes they would take prasadam with their left hand or something like that. Some giveaways, but in general, nothing to really be so critical about. I mean, I've seen people in India, friends, when they travel on the train, when we're eating, in a program and taking prasadam, of course, everyone's very conscious of eating with their right hand, and they're not touching, people are not taking from the plate of someone else, and the server's not supposed to take the plate. But I've seen people when they travel in groups, especially younger persons from India, when they're traveling on the train, they would all eat off the same plate. And they weren't maybe they didn't use their left hand, but they weren't so really concerned about social etiquette when traveling. So, anyway, it's not astounding that that people wouldn't necessarily accept what Srila Prabhupada did. But really how the Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Mat changed was, first of all, we could say in part because of the compassion of Srila Sridhar Maharaj, because he commented that when I saw persons who were brought over to Mahaprabhu's banner after Srila Prabhupada left, becoming discouraged and no longer enthusiastic and in danger of going back to the mundane society, he said, I felt compassion for them. I heard Guru Maharaj speak like that. But he also needed someone to help him. Srila Guru Maharaj said, I'm old and I can leave at any time. So who will, if I take these persons and give them shelter, who will take care of them after I leave this world? Which is a very valid concern. I mean, say in Srila Guru Maharaj, he left in 1988, right? So and he was about 93. Even in 78, before anyone really went to the Mont, he was already 83. So when the devotees knew Guru Maharaj, he's 85, 86 years old, right? So a completely valid viewpoint to say, if when I leave this world, who will take care of these persons? And Srila Govinda Maharaj said, I will. And of course, Srila Guru Maharaj, he was overjoyed by that, because it meant, first of all, it meant Govinda Maharaj accepting the position of being the next Acharya. And also implying that Govinda Maharaj will take, Guru Maharaj could see everything. Govinda Maharaj, of course, he wanted that. Guru Maharaj wants Govinda Maharaj to become his successor. He wants Govinda Maharaj to take sannyas. So when Govinda Maharaj said, I'll take responsibility for the Westerners after you leave, then that was, to Guru Maharaj, that was welcome news. That was, I mean, he anticipated that, but it still was welcome for him to hear that. So, I mean, what can I say? I mean, that mercy came through Guru Maharaj wanting to not see that people who had come to Mahaprabhu's banner would not go back to mundane society by being discouraged. And he also wanted that somebody will subsequently, after he leaves this world, somebody will take the responsibility for the continued development of the Westerners. And that would be Srila Govinda Maharaj. And I mean, when we were going to the Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Mat, I mean, which was far different in many, many ways, far different than ISKCON, in the sense that, you would still think of Srila Sridhar Maharaj as the Acharya and he had been there, so to speak, for so many years, with up to from 1947, basically, right? Or when did the Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Mat start?
1941.
41 and 42. Okay, so from 41 to 81, I mean, it's like 40 years that Srila Guru Maharaj had been there at the Mat. And later, when so many Westerners started to come, I heard even some people refer to the Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Mat as a Shaib Mandir. Shaib. Shaib means Westerners. And how could you think of, after 40 years of existence, the Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Mat, and now you've got some Westerners going there, and now it's being seen as a Shaib Mandir. That's kind of a little, but So anyway, when we look back upon things, how they developed, I was talking about Subodhi Roy, how he was rejected by the Hindu society just because somebody had thrown some water on him and said, now you're a Muslim. But Subodhi Roy used that to his advantage because it enabled him to go to Vrindavan and to detach himself from the normal family affairs in which he was involved, which apparently is his desire, because he did that. And then he's gathering firewood from the forest. You know, Vrindavan is one of, what is it? How many forests are there in the
12.
12 forests, all right? Van. Vrindavan, Van means forest. So Subodhi Roy is gathering firewood from the forest and selling it. And with the money that he's earning, he's feeding the Vaishnavas. And so Srila Prabhupada comments from, I guess, from his own experience. He says, Northern India is a place where they eat wheat, especially. Like in Punjab, they grow wheat, and all these places they grow wheat. And I've stayed with Sandeep and other persons in Delhi, and they don't eat rice every day. They don't eat rice every day. Sometimes they'll eat chapatis and vegetables, but they won't. Only maybe every other day or every third day they'll make rice for their dinner. But I mean, I've seen in Bengal, if people don't get 3 meals a day of rice, some of them are not happy. I mean, I've seen even in the mud, they'll take the rice from the previous night and they'll put it in like we do with tea. They'll put the rice in the hot water and heat it up and then serve it again for breakfast. Or you've seen, they'll take puff rice, muri is puff rice, but it doesn't mean that they don't appreciate wheat, but it's not part of their diet normally. Remember when we did the programs in the Esplanade, when the devotees, like in 1972, we're doing programs in the Esplanade, and sometimes the devotees were serving people in the evening programs halava and puris, and I mean literally, there would sometimes be riots over the halava and puris. People would so much want to get the puris and halva that they would rush at the servers. You know, so to say that they're against wheat, I mean, they're not. What is the word they use nowadays? They're not against gluten. They're not against gluten, but basically the diet in Bengal was always rice. In northern India, it wasn't. So Srila Prabhupada comments that when Subodhi Roy would take care of the visiting Vaishnavas from Bengal especially, he would serve them rice and also arrange for them to get mustard oil, I guess, both for food and for massages, to get massages with mustard oil. And he would use part of his income. He'd get a few pice, but I guess in those days, a few pice would feed a whole family. So he would bank. He would gather firewood, then sell it for some pice, and put maybe part of the pice that he got, he would put that with a local grocer or a banker, and he would be able to feed the and take care of the Vaishnavas. And Prabhupada comments that they weren't used to the diet of northern India or of Vrindavan or the western India. They weren't used to just eating wheat. It would upset their stomach. So he would arrange for them to get rice and to get mustard oil massages. Subhuti Roy would arrange that. And it says when I think who is it? Is it Sanatana Goswami or Rupa Goswami? I believe Rupa Goswami, when he goes there, he's very reluctant to take service from Subhuti Roy because, I mean, Rupa Sanatan, they're completely practicing the strict principles of renunciation. I mean, indelible principles of renunciation. So they're not ready to be, taken care of, or you might say, in quotes, fawned over by Subhuti Roy. They're very reluctant to take service from him. But Subhuti Roy was like that. And he took care of the Vaishnavas. And previously, he had been what's called a zamindar. Zamindar means big landholder, a rich man. And after that curse of being converted to be a Muslim, he rather took it as a release. Like I've seen some persons, I don't know by name, I can't mention offhand, but I know some persons, if you gave them an excuse, devotees an excuse to get out of, say, responsibilities, they would jump at the opportunity. Yeah. Everyone has their downs, has their particular nature. I went for a hearing test because my hearing's not so good. I went for a hearing test, and the lady who was giving me the hearing test told me, she said, well, you have a hard time hearing women and children. You have a hard time hearing women and children. So I said to her, okay, is there a downside? That's my bad humor. I told her. And so tell me what's the downside of this? So, I mean, many devotees I've seen that if you told them they were relieved of their responsibilities, they would be happy. Abhidut Maharaj told me that the Russians did so well in space travel because if you told them they didn't have to actually bathe for so many months, he said many of them would be very happy. I mean, when I lived in Denmark, I lived in Denmark for some time, and I lived in a house, like a house that had many, I guess you'd say, different apartments and different flats in it, Danish place. And I was taking care of that for a friend of mine who had gone to India, and his wife was Danish, so he had a house there. And in the place he had, which was actually, I'd better say an apartment, there was a sink, and there was a sink, and there was a toilet, but there was no bathtub. There was no bathtub, and there was no shower, because that was not part of the Danish culture. They would go to the public baths on Saturday, or maybe some other day, but Saturday was normal day for taking a bath. So you'd go there to the public baths, and also we did that in Russia. It's rather elaborate. You'd be in the bath, and they pour, they have the public baths, and they have these rocks that are brought to high temperature, and they pour oils on them like eucalyptus or something like that, or some oils, and they make steam almost like a sauna, and it gets very hot in there. And they give you these tree branches, like these thin branches, and you get hit on the back lightly or with the tree branches. You would get hit on the back, and that would make somehow or other. I don't remember this. I don't think it's a form of masochism or anything like that, but somehow or other, this makes you more sensitive to the heat of the bath. And then you go from there to another room, and there's a big vat of cold water. So you're like cooking in the one room, then you climb up this ladder and you jump into this vat of ice water, and then things like that. It's rather ritualistic. It was interesting. So like I said, bathing was a kind of a Saturday affair. It's not like people bathe every day. But I guess because the climate's so cold, I guess people don't sweat, right? They don't probably have no smell to speak of. And in Versailles, in the Palace of Versailles, as far as I understand, they didn't have baths. Perhaps that's what motivated the perfume industry in France. I'm told it is.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah. So, like bathing is not a part apparently bathing is not a part of the Western world tradition. And Prabhupada noted that. He'd say people go into the public bathrooms and they take care of whatever business they're doing. And when they come out of the stall, they don't even wash their hands. He was like kind of amazed by that. Apparently, so I saw this one commentary this one person made. He works with that comic in England. What's her name? Phila. What's the one who does who gives commentaries? Her stage name is Philomena or something like that, and she gives you a commentary. She'll take you on a tour of Shakespeare, and I'm trying to remember her name. I could see it. Anyway, the comic what was I trying to think of? The comic she works with, the group she works with, he gave a commentary on, it was a satire on your prime minister, so to speak. And the prime minister was saying that you should wash your hands with soap and water for as long as it takes to say what is it? Happy birthday twice.
Yeah.
So then this comic goes, all right, happy birthday twice. He's washing his hand. He goes, happy birthday twice. And I'm trying to remember. Anyway, it's not really important.
Charlie Booker.
Yeah, Charlie Booker. And who's the woman that he works with?
Well, she's a character on his show called Philomena Kunk.
Yeah, it's very hilarious, actually. And what's her real name?
I don't know. I can't remember her real name, but she's in quite a lot of things.
Yeah, she herself is quite funny. I forget her name. When Philomena Kunk is taking you to see the birthplace of Shakespeare and everything, she actually says very idiotic stuff. So anyway, I mean, even he ridicules a little the prime minister, which is certainly beneath us, but to deal with that kind of, as you would say, controversy regarding public figures. So, we would never do that about our president.
No, obviously.
We'd never say that about him. You know, we would never talk that bad about him, even if he goes to jail. Even if he throw away the key, but we would never speak bad about him. But anyway, there's a commentary about washing your hands, but apparently bathing was not a high thing among every member of society. I've been in India, and you see even people who live in the street, you see them taking baths in the street.
Mm.
It's kind of, I guess you'd say that aspect is pretty much part of their culture. But where I'm going with all this, I was talking about Subhuti Roy, how he wasn't unnerved by the curse being given to him by the Nawab, that he would be now outside of the responsibilities that he had in the domestic, in the day-to-day family society. He was really quite happy to be a little outside of that, to go to Vrindavan and become, join with the Vaishnavas there. That was rather to his liking. And Mahaprabhu never reinforced the fullest opinions of the rigid system, what we would say today, the rigid caste system. But Mahaprabhu never reinforced that at all. Quite the contrary. He said, no, basically he told him, you just need to become, to focus your life on serving Krishna and chant the holy name, and you'll be okay. You don't need to perform any of these. You don't even need to perform prayaschitta, atonement, and what to speak of these rather exaggerated forms of punishment. It's not necessary. So Mahaprabhu just acknowledged, you don't need to do anything. All you need to do is focus your life on serving Radha Krishna. If you do that, you'll be perfectly situated. And it seems like a simple message, and a message that really resonates with all of us, but there wasn't really previously anybody giving that message to other persons. First of all, if you left India, you would be considered to have lost your caste, right?
Yeah.
To travel outside of India, you're no longer welcome. It's not so, as you can say, how primitive, but also in Japanese culture, they, if somebody is, I'm told that if somebody is not living in Japan, living elsewhere, they're not considered really Japanese. So, there are some structured societies like this where if you leave, so to speak, leave the home nest, you're not really, what can you say, appreciated. And even our own devotees, some of them experienced that when they took up Krishna consciousness. Some persons, their family was outraged. They would disown them, or they would send some deprogrammer to take care of them, right?
Yeah.
So you can understand how anyway, I'm just speaking on the basis of referring a little bit to some of our readings. Now, where are we? We're in the Atmarama verse, where it's explaining that anybody, basically animals, hunters, anyone, they will be included within Krishna consciousness. Krishna, they will all find Krishna attractive. And I will say that we find we find the worship of Radha and Krishna attractive, basically because of the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his devotees, and in particular our Gurudev. Our Gurudev has given us that relationship with Radha and Krishna. I mean, even as inclusive as the worship of Radha Krishna is, how would that mercy ever reach Western shores if it were not through the mercy of the Vaishnavas who were taking that message to everyone? I mean, there's a commentary in the Chaitanya Charitamrita about actually the people of Vrindavan. It's kind of humorous because for people from Bengal, Vrindavan is considered part of Western India. And it said, in a comment of the Chaitanya Charitamrita, it said, the people of the West, referring to, the area of Vrindavan, it says the people of the West were not necessarily very intelligent or well-behaved, but Srila Rupa Goswami gave his mercy to those persons. And it's referring to Vrindavan. I mean, if you're from Bengal, Vrindavan is considered Western India to some extent. I said once before that these are the kind of, I don't remember the Shastra so well, but I remember sayings like Guru Maharaj saying, Porber neye paschimer meye uttarer kata dakiner mata. Means in East India, Porber neye means in Eastern India, you'll find a boatman, because there's so much rivers and floods and everything, say in East Bengal, that you need a boatman. Porber neye. Paschimer meye.
I can't hear everything.
Huh?
Okay.
Who's that? Maybe somebody who speaks Bengali is giving me
What happened?
better understanding of the pronunciation. But Porber neye means in East Bengal, you'll find a good boatman. Paschimer meye. Paschimer meye means in West India, you'll find a good wife. Paschimer meye. I mean, I guess if Bengalis want a good wife, they certainly will find the pick of the batch in Bollywood or in Mumbai. Porber neye paschimer meye uttarer kata. Uttarer kata means in northern India, you'll get good speech or good, learned speech. So who's from northern India? Veda Vyas, the scriptures. Porber neye paschimer meye uttarer kata in northern India. Idakiner mata. Mata means good brain. So the acharyas, principally all the acharyas, the heads of the sampradayas, like Ramanuja, Nimbarkacharya, Madhvacharya, Vishnu Swami, they're from South India. So Dakiner Mata means good brain. So anyway, what am I relating this to? That it says that, that it says in the Chaitanya Charitamrita that Westerners may be referring, in this case, referring to people in Vrindavan. They were neither super intelligent nor were they well behaved. But Rupa Goswami gave his mercy freely to all of them. As Rupa Goswami is, the Goswamis, they're living in Vrindavan, and Rupa Goswami in particular is mentioned as giving so much mercy to, there is mentioned, the Westerners. So, I mean, so by extension, I don't know, if we consider the people in Vrindavan are termed in the Chaitanya Charitamrita to be to be Westerners, would by extension, might we also be included in the term Westerners? I mean, if in relation to Bengal, Vrindavan is a person from there is a Westerner, then what to speak of somebody from England or America? I mean, we're so far to the west, you can reach us just as quick by going to the east. That's how far to the west we are. But, and then it says of the Westerners, well, they weren't always intelligent and they weren't so well behaved. Of course, that wouldn't refer to us at all. That would not refer to us at all. That's rather extreme. But in any case, even if it did refer to us by some extension, you could say that then we become eligible for Srila Rupa Goswami's mercy. So there is a nice side of it, right? Wouldn't you say?
For sure.
So, but my point was that although we can say Mahaprabhu, he's telling that, just worship Radha Krishna, chant the holy names. He basically told, three things. He said, chant the holy names, serve the Vaishnavas, and jive doya, to give mercy to the jivas. To give mercy to the jivas means to be merciful. Because in one story, it's referring to Jiva Goswami in particular, but it's also, Mahaprabhu said that, be merciful to the jivas, and it's part of the quality of those who are, what we could say, those who are not Kanishta Adhikaris, but those who are aspiring to be Madhyamadhikaris. Madhyamadhikaris worship the Lord, make friends with the devotees, are kind to the innocent and preach to them, and 4, they avoid the association of those persons who are openly inimical and also openly nasty to devotees. They avoid them. But they do give their mercy to the innocent persons. So the idea of jive doya but is also included. So Mahaprabhu said that, but were it not for Mahaprabhu's teachings and were it not for the acharyas taking the message to everyone, we would have been outside of the scope of, even Srila Saraswati Thakur, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. He not only told Prabhupada, but he told many persons. He told Ban Maharaj, he told to Bhakti Sharanga Goswami and others. He told them, I want to do some preaching work in the West, didn't he? He told them that. So was the desire of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's, he wanted to do that. Now, how extensive that was done, of course, they did preach to the West, and we heard some nice stories from Srila Sridhar Maharaj about that, and about how what was it? Bhakti Sharanga Goswami Maharaj, he received some draft at the bank, and he had no documents to show that he was actually Bhakti Sharanga Goswami Maharaj. Obviously, sometimes our documents, passport, etc., is in a different name. But by chance, when he was trying to draw the money, there was a picture of him from the newspaper where it showed a program he had given. There was a picture of him in the newspaper with the name, Bhakti Sharanga. But I don't think at the time he hadn't taken sannyas. What was his name?
Aprakrita.
Aprakrita. So anyway, to identify himself to be able to cash the draft, he showed the newspaper, and that was considered identification enough. And they gave him the amount that was sent to him. So we are told that Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur wanted preaching work to go on in the West, and others had done it. You know, we hear the famous story of what is it, who is the political person, the viceroy or something?
The Earl of Zetland.
Okay, Earl of Zetland. How he asked, who was it that he asked, can I become a Brahmin?
That was Goswami Maharaj.
Okay, Bhakti Sharanga Goswami Maharaj.
Yeah.
Wasn't called Goswami Maharaj at that time, I believe.
No.
But he was asked, can I become a Brahmin? And the way we hear it in the condensed form is, yes, you have to avoid intoxication, gambling, meat eating, illicit sex, principles like this. And his reply was impossible. Impossible. This is so far outside our culture that it is impossible. I want to become a Brahmin, but please, can't you paint it in a nicer term? He was saying, if perhaps if you search enough, you can find some hidden votes for me to become a Brahmin. Right. Anyway, that was his comments. But the indication being that, yes, they were preaching in the West, but principally they were trying to preach to the upper strata of society, so to speak, to the earls or important persons thinking that they can influence the society. But the structure of, we would hear the structure of the Gaudiya Math temples and everything is principally run by sannyasis and brahmacharis, right?
Yeah.
And the grihastas would go there as the congregation.
Yeah.
Numerous congregation, but the actual management or structure, whatever, was in the hands of the sannyasis and the brahmacharis. So the idea of sending to England or to anywhere to preach, the idea of grihasta couples, that was an innovation, right? That wasn't something. It wasn't something that household couples were being sent to foreign countries to open centers, as later happened when Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada sent his disciples there. Yeah. Right? And
yeah.
And of course, that resonated with people. That kind of preaching, it was an intelligent way of reaching people. And then there's commentaries that Prabhupada make where he said, a real acharya knows how to adjust things according to time and place. So that is a real acharya. And, at the same time, there's really requires person who's a real devotee, whether he's a grihasta or a sannyasi or anything, requires someone not to water down what is the actual content of Krishna consciousness, of Gaudiya Vaishnavism. It's not to make it so popular that the brahmachari is just hugging people to spread Krishna consciousness. That's not exactly not exactly our philosophy. I was thinking of the word huggers. Isn't that something that occurs in science fiction films? Huh?
I don't know.
I think the huggers, I thought that the the aliens, whatever they're called in that movie, they were known as huggers because I don't know. I thought there was that terminology that some of these subterranean aliens or whatever they were also called huggers. I don't know why, but it's a little outside of our range. But we're not spreading Krishna consciousness, so to speak, through hugging people. Although we are friendly, but we're not that friendly. Although Govinda Maharaj, he would embrace persons, and embracing persons is nice. I remember one time Govinda Maharaj said that as far as he was embracing persons, and he said, normally I would only embrace, for instance, my wife if I was gone for several months and came back. So the idea of embracing was something that was part of Govinda Maharaj's way, and others of affectionately dealing with us lovable Westerners. So anyway, I'm just saying that way of preaching, which Srila Prabhupada established, he was able to spread Krishna consciousness in that way. And previously, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur did instruct others. It wasn't just a Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada that he asked them to go into the West and preach. He wanted that. And Guru Maharaj explains why very nicely in the Golden Volcano. He says that this is done because Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur is trying to, so to speak, attack the citadel of Maya, because people in India were looking towards the West as for their inspiration due to the technological advancement in the West. People in India were looking to the West. I remember when I went to India, it was like 1971, the beginning of 71, and people were walking around with 007 belts and stuff like that. 007 merchandise was being, promoted in India. A lot of people like James Bond and all this. And so definitely people were looking towards the West. Srila Saraswati Thakur, his ideas will attack, the example of Napoleon. He's attacking the strong point of the army. He's not looking for the weakest place to penetrate there. He's attacking the strength of the army. And then if you would defeat them in their strength, the whole everything would be won. So Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur wanted his disciples to establish Krishna consciousness in the West, where people were, that was more or less the center of the Mayic civilization that Indian people were looking towards. And apparently it was a successful idea that he had, because when the Westerners came to India practicing Krishna consciousness, and as I said, in the beginning, they were looked at, suspect as being, sheep and wolves in sheep's clothing, or you could say hippies and Vaishnav devotees or something like that. Though they were looked at in that way, but within a short time, the idea was very visibly successful. There was a revival of an acceptance of, I would say, Gaudiya Vaishnavism. I'd go so far as to say that it wasn't just a revival of Hindu culture. It was a revival of Gaudiya Vaishnavism. People who didn't even know about Gaudiya Vaishnavism in India, temples began to be established everywhere. And many people, I'd get into a taxi and there'd be a picture on the dashboard of maybe Radha Krishna or Prabhupada or something. And the taxi driver would say to me, "I'm your life member." Now, in many cases, I doubt that they really were life members because that meant having to pay some amount of money. But I think, they had this kind of promotion among people who would get into their taxis, that they would say, yes, I'm one of you. And I thought it was, naturally found favor with us. We were happy to see that. But my point being is that actually there was success of what was Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's idea to spread Krishna consciousness in the West and then bring it back to India. That was the second important step. First to the West and then bring it back to India. That was very successful. And certainly we will, everyone will now today will credit Srila Prabhupada. They put him on stamps. But we also have to see that proper credit is given to Srila Sridhar Maharaj and Srila Govinda Maharaj. Because I have many devotees afterwards tell me, oh, Srila Govinda Maharaj so much reminds us of Srila Prabhupada. People would tell me that. And they would appreciate his presence. Anyway, I think he's just going on and on. But does someone have some comments? Somebody want to ask anything? I think it's unfair that I just use, so to speak, what do you use it? The bully puppet. What is it? Bully? What's the next word?
Don't know, Maharaj. Don't know that.
Oh, I'm sure you do. I'm just not saying it. Let's see. Let me just check here. Bully pulpit.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, bully pulpit. Pulpit. A public office or position of authority that provides its occupant with an outstanding opportunity to speak out on any issue. So, here I am rambling about, and it has the word bully in it, so people can be bullied, I guess. Anyway, pardon me if rambling on about many topics. Does anyone have a question or comment? Who's that sannyasi there? Is that Tridandi Maharaj?
Where?
You have to come here. You can see it.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Where do you have to go?
Here.
Hare
You
Krishna.
can see yourself in the mirror.
Where?
There, in that side.
You have to walk more left.
Oh, okay.
Maharaj, I'm in this box here.
Okay. I'm not very used to it, so that's nice to see you. And
Nice.
and Devashis Prabhu. Yeah. Hare Krishna.
I saw you in the background. I saw your divine presence.
Right. Well, I didn't want to interrupt you. I was going to say,
Anyway, Maharaj, happy to see you.
yeah, nice to see you. Happy New Year. And hopefully, well, traveling's a bit of a problem at the moment, of course, in general.
It's even traveling even out of the property is getting to be a problem.
Yeah. Hare Krishna. Okay, done with that. I'll carry on.
But happy lockdown, Maharaj.
And yourself. Take care.
Maharaj is going to get some books.
Huh?
Maharaj is going to get some books.
Okay, maybe look to
Some books?
Yeah.
He's getting to. Yeah. I asked you to send me books, but you never sent them.
Maharaj, but I never got a list.
No, basically I asked you to send me some of the books that Acharya Maharaj was publishing. He published basically, I forget, he published 1, 2, 3, and 4, one title. What was the name of that? And I think you had one of them or something.
I think that we sent them. Lavanya, did we send them? I think that we sent them already. Lavanya, did you do? No, we sent them.
Ask her. I never got them. I don't know.
Oh, we need to check that.
Yeah, I need to. We need to check that. Or maybe I did. But I thought I did. They were paperbacks, right?
Yes.
I'll check again. I thought I didn't get them, but maybe I did. I'm
Narada Prabhu, do you have a question?
forgetting everything. I'm gone. I told you I've gone into a stage of advanced senility. But I remember having seen the book, but I don't seen the book. I think someone showed me, but I don't think I got the one sent by Lavanya.
We'll
How many
check.
how many were there?
Mashed potato. I think 3 or 4.
Huh?
I will ask Lavanya, Mai, and
Okay.
send you a message.
Okay. So how was everything there? Naradas, which temple you're usually going to? Which temple?
I've been getting involved with the West London temple recently,
Okay.
Maharaj. I'm kind of new-ish. I'm not new to Krishna consciousness, but I'm new to the Sri Chaitanya Sarasat. I've been maybe attending for 2.5 years, kind of on and off in London.
Nice.
And I've been taking up some service recently, helping with marketing and fundraising and things, and which is going well.
Very nice. Let me see. I'll look at now the gallery here. See Devashis, Narad, SCS West London, Vijay Krishna. See, and then Falguni Didi, Ragamoy, Abhinava Sundar. Wait a minute, he's not from London. He's from Australia. Lavanya Moyi, Ananda Swarupini, N. Hariya, Suvasini from Ireland, Lakshmi Kanti and Krishna Kishore, and another of Krishna Kishore, and Pete Sink 5S, who I know is Pitambar. And I don't even know what he's watching for, Pitambar. He doesn't even speak English. Huh? Pitambar. Now he's.
Oh, he's
Of course, I understand what you say.
How can you understand what we're saying? You're French. Where are you from? France. How can French? Yeah. How can Frenchmen understand English?
It's a little perfume.
Suvasini, how are you?
Dandavats, Maharaj. Very nice to see you. I'm fine, Maharaj. Thank you.
I promised you I would go to Ireland, and just when I was going to go, I couldn't go there because Ramai passed away, and I had to leave early. I was actually going to go that year to Ireland.
Yes, yeah, we booked the ticket, everything, but we couldn't go. But hopefully soon, sometime, we hope we can come.
Yeah, hopefully they'll let me out of the house, and then maybe I can go somewhere.
Okay.
I'm waiting. Actually, it's the truth. I'm waiting to get some vaccination, but one of my sannyasi godbrothers told me that in the meantime that I should take, what is that name of that thing? Hydroxychloride or something like that. Told me to take that. I think that was something promoted. I mean, maybe it works. I've heard people say that it works, but I heard that the president himself, he was taking it as a prevention. And then I believe he actually caught the coronavirus. So I guess, it was such a good preventative that, maybe he got a mild case of coronavirus, and maybe he had access to every kind of medicine that exists once he got it. But anyway.
He was advising bleach.
He was advising what?
Bleach.
Oh, bleach. Yeah. But he didn't tell people how to do that. I mean, if you would start out with small doses of bleach and then just augment each day, augment the concentration. First,
Right.
first maybe the bleach in 1,000 part, and then 100 part, and then, you know, working it gradually. And Uma Devi, oh, Suvasini, I was just saying, I wanted to go to Ireland. Actually, I've never been to Ireland. I feel very unfortunate. Huh?
Be very happy, Maharaj, when the chance comes and you can come here. We'll be very, very happy to come, for you to come here.
Yeah, I'll go there. I'll go to Dublin. I won't go to Belfast.
Okay. Most of the devotees here, it's our devotees are all in the Republic of Ireland here. So
Nice. And how is everything going there? Are you also on lockdown in Ireland?
as Maharaj, it's in the last 1 week, it is again the restrictions have increased, and from tomorrow or day after, that's even further restrictions. It's like cases have gone up very much here, but the vaccinations have started here, and so that's going on also.
I remember how we used to hear whenever, of course, this refers to Krishna consciousness. It doesn't refer to the disease, but whenever someone innovates something, does something to spread Krishna consciousness, Maya starts some counterattack, right? So I don't know, maybe this worldwide pandemic is some kind of a counterattack, I guess. But I see that I like that we're able to have programs on Zoom and other means of communication and actually reaching more devotees that would otherwise be at work right now. I mean, well, this time of night for you, it's not work time, but here in America, it's like 12:30, 12:35 in the midday. So everyone would be at work, and yet we see that there's always, anytime we'll have a program, there's participation among the devotees, and they're actually very happy to participate in programs because they can't get to the temples so much. So it's along with the disadvantages, there are advantages of, you know, we do something and then there may be, as it said, a counterattack of Maya, and then we see so many persons are doing programs, like Acharya Maharaj is doing programs, and Vishaka is doing programs, and also Madhusudan Maharaj is doing programs, and Goswami Maharaj is doing programs, and many persons all over the world are reaching out to devotees, and devotees are participating in different programs. Sometimes they're like constraints of time zones that, you know, I can't really always attend programs at 5 a.m.
Yes.
But it's nice to be able to reach persons. And Uma Devi, I see, from London.
Dandavat Pranam Maharaj.
Dandavat. Are you well?
Yes, Maharaj, by your grace and Guru and Gauranga.
Good. You're also well, Suvasini?
Yes, Maharaj. Yeah, we are all okay. Yeah, thank you, Maharaj. Yeah.
Actually, that's my desire for all the devotees, that they stay well and, you know, keep safe in Krishna consciousness. So, Lakshmi Kanti, estás ahí?
Yes, Maharaj, Dandavat Pranam.
¿Dónde va? ¿Cómo va todo?
Todo bien, Maharaj. Con frío, mucho frío.
¿Dónde estás ahorita?
En casa en Birmingham. Birmingham. Yes. In the heart of England.
Yeah, we hear much about Birmingham.
I hope everything is good.
Well, not everything is always good that comes out of Birmingham. But it's, I'm sure it's a nice city.
It's actually really nice. People here are super nice.
Okay, very good.
Yes.
Happy to hear you.
Oh, Maharaj, I'm happy with your classes. I'm always delighted with your class.
Okay.
Dandava.
Dandava. Oh, there's Gaurachandra. Hey, Gaurachandra. Oh, Lavanya. Now I can see her.
Oh, wait. I'm here. I'm just turning on this thing. Yeah, wait. Yeah. Hey, wait. Hey.
But I can hear you. You said also you sent me some message that you wanted to get in touch with me.
Yeah, I wanted to say hello. I'm so happy to. I don't know why the video is not. Yeah, there is. I wanted to say hello. It's so happy to see you often. And, every time that we get darshan from Gurudev and see you there and having interactions, Ashram Maharaj, you and Gurudev is so, it's amazing to me because these are like you are saying these days, like this Zoom thing is bringing everyone together and my chance to see you and Ashram Maharaj and Gurudev, it was always going to India. It was never something that I could do every week. And now I see them, I see you every week all together. And that's really amazing to me.
Yeah, actually, this whole Zoom technology is rather innovative. I mean, we had internet and everything like that, but never had anything like Zoom where everybody could participate from all over the world.
No, it's amazing, really. Thanks God to COVID.
Yeah. And we also see that maybe thanks to political events in Venezuela, Venezuelans are exported all over the world.
Yeah. Now you can take arepas everywhere in the world.
Yeah, I can take arepas.
So much technology in Venezuela.
Yeah.
No, I wanted to ask you something really the other day because somebody asked about milk and how the treatment of the cows, and Gurudeva said, like, look, we worship Krishna like milk, and we offer milk to Krishna, and that's what we do. We are not concerned with how people do harm to the cows, because that is going to happen anyway. And then the other day,
but we are concerned about how people harm the cow. We're not okay with that.
Of course.
But how are we going to live on? I mean, some people do, but I'm not really living on soy milk. Nor was Krishna a Japanese soybean farmer.
But I wanted to ask you, because so often I find myself and I find so many points to have a conversation in which these kind of ideas come across, in which you have to say, like, look, there are many things horrible happening, but that doesn't mean that we are going to go this way because we are religious. We are trying to do service, and the last darshan with Gurudev, you were after that, and somebody asked you something about veganism.
They asked me about the vaccination, that it can take monkey and pig and embryo stem cells in or something like that, so it should not be touched by by anyone. And, they presented, these are the points against taking the vaccination. And what do you have to say about that? And I said, well, I'll have a Coke. All these terrible things. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? What will be your decision? And I say, oh, I'll have a Coke. Or maybe if you don't have any Coke, maybe some 7-Up. But, what am I supposed to do? I'm supposed to it is true that it's nice that somebody has some, that they're preoccupied or they're feeling some sympathy for the poor cows. We appreciate that. We don't dismiss that as being insignificant, that somebody has some feelings for the cruelty done to animals. We appreciate that people have developed some consciousness that goes beyond their own selfish needs. But on the other hand, we don't carry it. I mean, some persons, they're vegan out of necessity and some out of philosophical belief, even among the devotees. And I don't have a problem with that. If they want to be vegan, if they want to be vegan or they want to be gluten-free or whatever, I don't have problems with people living their life according to their own beliefs and according to their own necessities. I don't have a problem with that. But, just because maybe I'll eat a sandwich, which is made from milk, it doesn't necessarily mean that I'm supportive of the cruelty to animals. It's just that for me, this is a part of our daily diet and culture and everything that we're not willing to just sacrifice. I mean, if you get down to it on so many levels, there's so many things that you eat or breathe or consume every day that are, that have a degree of violence attached to them. And actually, that, as we always heard, that's the nature of this material world. One living being exists by eating another. And it's not like one is exempt of cruelty by dealing randomly with even trees or plants, or it's not like that all right, you uproot a carrot, eat it. It's not like there's absolutely no karma attached to that. What's here? There's a remark by Abhinav Sundar to everyone. If no one offers milk, I didn't get to read the whole thing.
Chat, you have a balloon on the bottom.
Chat, all right. If no one offers milk to the Lord, how will those cows get any benefit for their suffering? Well, so pretty decent thought. How will they get any benefit? But, I think the cows also naturally, rather than being slaughtered, they would probably be very happy to serve Krishna. Cows like Krishna. So that's I think that's a pretty decent remark, And also, one is not exempt from any kind of sin, even if one is a vegetarian. It's not like there's no sin attached to being, to consuming vegetables. For instance, as a far stretch, I'll give you an instance. People very much like to eat quinoa, and they see it as a high source of protein and a very good, so to speak. It's a very good source of protein, and it's a nice grain. People like that. But as a result of the popularity of quinoa all over the world, people who live in Peru, who it was their native food, cannot afford it because it's gone so much up in price, but due to its value for exportation, because it's so popular in the West, that the people who actually lived on it as a part of their staple in Peru, they find it, the price has gone up so much that it's hard for them to get something that was actually a necessity for their normal diet. So you could say, oh, there's no karmic reaction for eating vegetables. But and people in India sometimes they can't get basmati rice because the exportation has become so popular going to the West that maybe that kind of rice is inaccessible to people who would want to use it. So to say that there's no reaction incurred by dealing randomly with vegetables or plants or certainly trees, just like I heard Srila Prabhupada when he went to South India. We were at a place called we were staying at a guest house called the Andhra, that was run by the Andhra Pradesh paper mill. And they asked Srila Prabhupada to speak, and he told them that you will get a reaction for all the trees that are being cut down to make paper. And what is that paper being used for? A lot of nonsense books, magazines, and things that are just for consumer items, that, stupid magazines, stupid books, newspapers, etc. He said, don't think you won't get some karmic reaction for that. And that's just cutting down trees and making paper. He said, if the paper was being used for printing devotional literature, he said that would be one thing. There wouldn't be so much reaction for that. But he said because it's being used for publishing nonsense articles and things, then he said there's a reaction. So one should not think, oh, I'm a vegetarian, I don't have to worry, but I am careful about not drinking milk because how the cows are mistreated. Well, all right. The cows, what? What were you saying?
No, I don't know who's that.
It was Pitambar. He's in Guadalajara, Mexico.
Ay. Perdón, ya lo voy a apagar.
Okay. I thought he wanted to add something, but he just had his mic on. So anyway, we're getting people are getting reactions for other things, but we are not insensitive to the plight of cows. I mean, if suddenly by not drinking milk, we could save all the cows from slaughter, I'm sure we would stop drinking commercial milk bought in the supermarkets, and we would look for it in so to speak, in karma-free places where devotees were keeping cows, or we might even keep a cow ourselves. Incidentally, we had a farm once and we had a lot of cows there, and I found out devotees actually, strangely enough, were terrible at keeping cows. They didn't know the first thing about keeping cows. It's not so easy to keep cows. Yeah, so anyway, I think you can understand that not all devotees, a lot of devotees are what we call city folk, and they're not so adept at functioning on a farm. So we depend on those persons who supply us with milk, but we're still not insensitive to how they treat cows, certainly. But it's like what's being said. How can we avoid supplying the Lord with, Krishna was was a cowherd boy. He said, when Mahaprabhu asked one astrologer, what was I in my previous life? That astrologer said, I see that you are the Supreme Lord, the center of everything. You are the source of, you are the Param Brahman. You are that greatly effulgent, supreme personality. Mahaprabhu said, pardon me, but I think you're a little mistaken, because I know in my past life, I took care of cows. And as a result of that pious activity, I was able to get birth in a Brahmin family.
Somehow.
So, I mean, Krishna does like cows, and we know that, and that's part of our culture. But, you know, for instance, where you live, is there any facility where you live, Gaurachandra, for keeping a cow?
No, not quite. Not quite.
You don't have an extra room or something?
No, it's tiny here. Everything here is tiny. So a cow will need a whole house. I love cows, I have to say. And I didn't try to say that we are oblivious to the suffering of animals, including cows, especially cows. What I wanted to say is that
your father loved animals in general. I saw that he had.
Yeah, that's a way to say it.
That is true. It's true. He had many animals there. I saw.
Yes, yeah. I wanted to. When I listened to you the other day, I wanted you to be like you just did now, to expand a little bit on that, because so many times I have to find myself arguing with some people. It might be not something about a eating habit or a decision philosophical decision, like that, but a therapy or a thought, and somehow there is always coming like, you are religious, so you should understand or you should follow this, and it's like, no, I don't.
Pero ellos no tienen ni lo menor interés en lo que tú tienes que tú vas a decir. Ellos ni quieren escucharte. Ellos simplemente quieren presentar su dogma. They're just dogmatic. They just want to present their side of things. They have no interest at all in having a conversation. Unless you're, of course, willing to be 100% to agree with them, and suddenly adopt their philosophy and accept it as the revealed truth.
Mm.
I mean, they would probably even criticize Krishna because of the dairy industry.
Yeah, easily, or whatever.
Krishna, because Krishna likes milk.
You know, how can you possibly please any of these persons? You know, but Mahaprabhu, he would agree with some of them. When Brahmananda Bharati came, was it Brahmananda Bharati, when he came dressed in a deer skin? He was dressed in a deer skin. Mahaprabhu wouldn't even recognize him. He refused to recognize him. They said, "Where is Brahmananda Bharati, my guru?" And they said, "Here, right in front of you." And Mahaprabhu said, "No, surely you must be mistaken. Why would my spiritual master Brahmananda Bharati be dressed in a deer skin?" Because he was Guru Varga. Mahaprabhu accepted him in the category of Guru Varga. Why would someone who is in a position of being like my guru, why would he be dressed in deer skin? Surely you must be mistaken. This cannot be Brahmananda Bharati. And then Brahmananda Bharati thought, oh, Mahaprabhu doesn't approve of my deer skin. I mean, an understatement, if we've heard one. He doesn't like my deer skin. So then, understanding that he had this thought, Mahaprabhu had some sannyas robes brought for him, you know, and then he was happy. When Brahmananda Bharati put on some proper clothing, then he was happy. So Mahaprabhu didn't, you might say, he might not have greatly disapproved of what is it, the Peta movement? Is that what it's called?
What is PETA? PETA. Well, I don't know about that.
The fur, the anti-fur.
Yeah. The PETA, yeah. No, I don't know. I like your view. It's like, it's difficult to please everyone, and then if you try to explain that, they don't want to hear about Krishna. They just want to make up. But it is the same in any kind of. It's not only something about eat, and this is what I wanted to.
Yeah, but for instance, some of them, I'm just wondering that they're so against the dairy industry, but they are. Does that mean that these people who are against the dairy industry, are they all vegetarian?
No, not necessarily. Sometimes
that's my point. Not necessarily. We're very sensitive. We're very sensitive to how people mistreat the cows. But can you pass me another pork chop?
Please.
That might be part of their reasoning, right? Or
yeah.
We're very worried about the cows. Well, what about other industries?
Or the trees, or the water, or.
Well, maybe some of them who are very progressive, they'll be concerned about trees and water, but they won't necessarily give up eating meat. That's a little bit of a stretch, right?
Mm.
Would you say so, Devashis? You've talked to these people. Those who are so concerned they're vegan. Oh, well, I guess vegans are against eating meat in general.
Yeah.
Are all the people who are against the malpractices of the dairy industry, are they all vegetarian? I don't know. Maybe they are. I don't know. What would you say, Devashis? Are they veg? There's no sound. But,
yeah, I would say in the majority they would be all vegetarian, vegans.
Okay.
But ultimately, veganism, in general, veganism means atheism, because they don't believe in any symbiotic relationship with animals at all. You can't ride a horse, you can't shear a sheep, you can't even eat honey, or and we understand, okay, it's all exploitation, but there is some natural symbiosis between man and the earth, isn't there? And that's something that's been given by God, and maybe it's being abused now, of course, but it doesn't mean that we throw out the baby with the bathwater.
So are they against also the canine industry?
Well, that's the funny thing, because they'll keep dogs and cats in their home. They don't call them pets, they call them companion animals. But they don't mind opening a tin of pedigree chum for them, with a, I don't know when the last time you saw a cat eating a cow, but they've probably got a few cans of that in their cupboard, haven't they?
No, cats are generally fisharians. They don't eat. Cats are fisharians.
Yeah, I don't know what they have in their cat food, but still, it is a bit of a hypocrisy, isn't it? That you can't milk a cow, but you can keep a cat or a dog in your house, and
Yeah, I don't know what they keep in their cat food. I never had any.
Anyway, we understand that if they don't have any kind of spiritual belief, that then, yeah, veganism must be the ultimate thing. But if you understand what Krishna has arranged, that natural, because since the beginning of time, man has existed with animals in this kind of way. People have kept cows, people have kept sheep. These are like.
What? Another thing I would say that they're sensitive on all these levels, but a level that I I say that generally people are not sensitive on at all is the treatment of old people.
Yeah.
Yeah, the treatment of old people. Oh, that person is not doing well. Can't we just move them into an old age home and they'll take care of it?
Right.
You
And
know?
I heard a comedian the other night saying, you know, like, okay, you care so much about the cows that you become a vegan, but what about the immigrants that you know, that farm the food that you eat? You don't care about their suffering, do you? How they're exploited, that pick your peas and pick your cabbages. What about them?
And put food onto your table.
Yeah. Anyway, it's a kind of
but some of
you can be a vegan and be a devotee of Krishna. It's okay, isn't it? You know, but ultimately, Krishna's a cowherd boy. He likes milk.
Some of them do care for the immigrants. Pity the poor immigrant that wallows in blood.
So I think Maharaja, for everything that we have learned, that at the end, whatever the idea that or the lifestyle that you choose to have, if it's not dedicated to service to Krishna and to Guru, it doesn't have much value at the end.
Yeah, it doesn't have any value.
It doesn't have any value. But my question, and that's what I wanted to ask.
Yo tengo una pregunta. ¿Cómo se llama tu esposo?
Falguni.
¿Dónde va, Maharaj?
¿Dónde va? ¿Cómo estás?
Bien.
Muy bien.
We can even speak in English because you both have been in England so long. You've picked up the lingo, right?
Yeah. Not like Devashis, but we can. So the question I wanted to ask you is, if you have to, not necessarily a vegan, that's just an example, like a person who doesn't have any kind of religious background, how to explain that no matter what they do, if it's not dedicated to the service of the Lord, doesn't have any sense, without sounding like an evangelic, like we are trying to like really, you know, head into their heads, like to chop their head or chop their wings in whatever the idea they have.
I don't know. I haven't become a vegan, but I've become a vagrant. I don't know if they're close. Guru Maharaj said, lava sounds like love. I don't know what it sounds like.
I think Gaur Chandra Prabhu, you have to pick your battles.
Yeah.
Guru Maharaj said, just tell everyone about the love and beauty of Krishna, and those who are attracted by that, they'll come forward to hear more. We don't need to spend our time in like pointlessly arguing with people who are already fixed in their own idea.
Yeah.
Just tell people about Krishna in general and who is actually interested in Krishna. Then you can spend some time and talk with them.
And what Guru Maharaj said, what Govinda Maharaj said about Guru Maharaj, he said, first he would let the person present something of their philosophy, and then he would discuss what they said because he knew what their point of interest was. So, but you can't really choose to, you know, like the saying goes, you can't fight with the crocodile when in the province of water.
Right.
I mean, if you want to get into a philosophical discussion with a vegan about all these points of how one shouldn't do this and one shouldn't eat this and one shouldn't have this and one shouldn't have that, then I consider it a waste of time, because you already know that they will not relent at all on their argument, and they will not accept anything you say. So, you know, and then instead of saying, when they say, so what do you have to say? Instead of saying, oh, I'll have a Coke. Maybe you should just say I'll have a organic. I'll have an organic juice. Maybe that's it. Anyway, it's getting late for everyone, and I'm very happy to have met with all of you, to be with all you. I like doing these programs on Wednesday, like we're doing. If anyone is saying that, well, the things are a little unstructured or something, if you want to present some questions or say anything, I kind of like just, you know, I'm just happy to be with the devotees, and then I, so to speak, get on some kind of verbal roll. But I'm really happy to be with all of you, and
we are very happy to see you, Maharaj. It's so nice, really.
Okay. So
Maharaj, there will be some questions for next week. There are some questions lined up for next week.
okay, so send me. You have my email address, and others can have it. If anyone wants to send me some questions, they can send it by any means. They can send it by Skype or WhatsApp or by text messages or by email, or some vegan message service.
Raj, Abhinava Sundar Prabhu was showing around in the temple. He's in Australia, but I don't know if he's already gone. Is he there?
Yeah, he's there. I can see him, and I can even make this. I can go.
Sorry, we're back at home now. We were at the temple just before. Dandavat, good to see you.
Good to see you.
Dandavat, nice to see you both.
Nice to see all of you. Nice to see Maharaj.
Nice to see all of you. Good to see you. So please excuse me if I've said anything, semi-offensive.
We would expect no less, Maharaj.
So if
We
anyone,
love your classes, Maharaj.
thank you. What can I say? All right, my dandavats to everyone. I'll see you.
Dandavat.
Dandavat, pranam.
I'm still hoping to go to England and Ireland. That's my fervent desire. Really, I would like to go there. And I'm one of these persons that when I stay in one place too long, I get crabby and nasty and everything. I really like to get out of so to speak, to get out of the house, out of the state, and out of the country. And I'm happy for that.
Okay, Maharaj, as soon as it is possible, we will bring you.
Yeah, we'll be good, because there's some people that they have the joke that he said, I went to France and it was very nice, but it was full of foreigners. That's people's conception of travel, that.
Oh,
yeah, places they go. I think there's religious adepts of different religions and also have the same philosophy. Nice to visit other countries, but they're full of heathens.
That's
All
for
right.
sure.
My dandavats.
Jai Srila Bhakti Pavan Janardan Maharaj ki jai.
Dandavats to everyone. I hope to see you again soon. This was all arranged through Saraswati, and we're very much appreciated. None of us. Okay.
Namaste, Gurudev.
And next.
Where's Pranana station now?
Pranana. Prashish Prabhu.
I haven't seen him in a long time.
Do you mean Pranashish Prabhu, Maharaj?
Huh?
Pranashish.
I said Pranashish. Here it says Pranana. I was confusing that with Pranashish. Okay. Pranashish is in Ireland?
Yeah, Maharaj. Pranashish lives close by to my house, 20 minutes from my place. Yeah.
Okay. He used to be over near Germany and other things like that.
Well, he was in Germany, but he has moved to Ireland, I think, quite a few years ago now, 10
Okay.
years
All right.
now. He
I
lives
Dandavas. Dandavas to Ragamoyi and everyone. Happy to see you, Uma Didi. Dandavas. Okay, I take your leave.
Maharaj.
Dandavas.